Never did I think about this in a million years. I cannot believe that I'm having this revelation right now as I'm filming this. I need a moment to process. Let's have a sip of wine. Are you ready to open up and talk about all things business? I'm Crystal Vilkaitis, a curious entrepreneur who loves talking about business, especially over a glass of wine. I started Crystal Uncorked to share open and honest conversations about my journey and talk to other entrepreneurs about their experiences. We pull back the curtain and talk about the highs and the lows. Wine isn't required, but is recommended. This is Crystal Uncorked. Hello and welcome back to Crystal Uncorked. If you're watching this and you watched episode 87, then you're like, she looks exactly the same. And that's because I'm batch recording and I have changed my outfit today 4 different times for different interviews and videos that I was creating. And I was like, yeah, we're just going to keep this train rolling for episode 88. And today I'm going to be talking about starting my first company. When I was 23 years old, I started a company called 3 Elements. Those 3 elements stood for marketing, social media, and PR. And this was back in 2008. So I'm going to dive into why I started it, how I started it, some really great lessons that I think we can all apply whether you're starting a business or not. But before I dive in, I have wine. I'm drinking a red blend, The Pessimist by Dow. Great Paso Robles wine. It's a very bold. For me, I definitely taste a fruitier, a little dry. You know me, if you've watched CU episodes, I love my bold wine. And this one, I love the dark color, the rich. So cheers. Now, I am excited to share where I am today got started. A little bit of an origin story, if you will. So it requires me to take a step back and tell you how I got into the social media industry. I was working for a company called Gen Green, and we were a startup technology company, and our goal was to help make sustainability easier for everybody, help them find sustainable companies, green companies, organic products, farmers markets, shopping local was such a big part of that. And we were building technology. And I got hired on to host and create events, which today would be called activations. That's the new word in the event world. But I would do events, and then I would also travel to trade shows and sell our software and get people signed up. And one day, my boss came in, Charisse, who I'm still friends with today and still talk to. And she's like, no. Her and I were on the airplane going, I think, to Seattle, some kind of green fest. And she gave me the Newsweek magazine. She's like, you should read this. There's some great articles. So I'm reading it. And I'm reading about this new company called Twitter. Twitter.com, a microblogging website. And nobody knew what the hell that meant. But I got it. I just have always really got social media. Like, I understand it. It makes sense to me. And so immediately I was just like, oh, this is really smart. How incredible. And I think something I really loved about Twitter was it connected us. It was a really brilliant way, in a quick way, and an easy way to connect people, and a platform for us to share and have ideas and exchange. And so my boss is basically like, yeah, you should get us on that. I'm like, okay. So I got us on twitter.com, and I'm just like figuring it out. And then Stumble Upon was a tool that I started using. Stumble Upon is like an image saver, basically, kind of like Pinterest in a way, honestly. But you could, like stumble images from a blog post. And so we would have blog posts about sustainability, and I try to get picked up that way. And then Digg. Oh, I gotta just share this quick story. Digg.com, Digg.com. Honestly, I don't even know if this site's around anymore. I think it is, but I don't know. The whole purpose of this, back in the day at least, was you would have a blog post or an online article and people would dig it. It's like you're voting to say if this is a good article, kind of like Reddit. You can vote and move things up. And then they would feature like top articles and articles that got a lot of digs. And one day, one of our articles for Jen Green was on the front page of Dig. Like, and you're almost guaranteed like 100,000 website visitors if you're on the front page of Dig. It's a pretty big deal. Here's the thing with Dig. One of the founders, Kevin Rose, I fell in love with. I can't even explain it. I loved Kevin Rose deeply. He was so cute, and I loved how his brain worked. They had a show, Diggnation, or no, like maybe that's what we were all called, but I feel like the show was called Diggnation. And it was just a YouTube show with him and his co-founder. I don't know his name. He didn't matter to me. Kevin did. Loved Kevin. His co-founder was fine, but like, they had a show where they just like sat on a couch with their laptops and talked about the top articles on Dig. That's it. I think they would drink beer sometime. Oh my God. Am I in Crystal Uncorked inspired by Kevin Rose Diggnation? Never did I think about this in a million years. I cannot believe that I'm having this revelation right now as I'm filming this. I need a moment to process. Let's have a sip of wine. This is very interesting because I remember I had my laptop on my couch and I would just watch them on their couch with their laptops talking about articles. And there was one day where I was like, I can't believe I'm watching this. Like I was surprised by my activity, by how I was spending my time. But what was happening is I was building a relationship with them. I was liking how they speak. I was liking what they said. It was entertainment. And it was like an everyday person who built a website, who's got a lot of knowledge about technology and online marketing. And back then, this was all very new. So for me, I have a very like innovative mind. I love fresh ideas. And I think this is where social media, I just got it. And I like loved it because my mind works that way and I love change so much. So I'm sitting here just like watching this show of these guys talking about articles and I was like, I loved it. So I'm totally full circle moment here, hoping maybe that somebody is watching CU with this girl drinking wine, being like, I love it. I get so much value out of it. I didn't even necessarily get a lot of value out of the articles that they would talk about. It was entertainment. Anyways, I'll move on. Loved Kevin Rose. Sad story. I was at South by Southwest, which is a big tech and social media marketing conference in Austin, Texas, I think every March or spring. And they had a Diggnation event and Kevin Rose was there. And I had no friends with me. I was by myself and I had like a flip phone at this point, I think still. It did have a camera on it. And I met Kevin Rose, but my phone was dead. And so I asked this stranger, this guy that I was standing next to, him and his friend, and we were talking and I was swooning over Kevin Rose and they loved him too. And so he took my picture with Kevin and I'm like, will you text it to me? And then he never did. And so there is no proof that I met Kevin Rose, but I did. And it was one of the best days of my life. So there's that. Love you, Kevin. Also, I tweeted once, all I want for my birthday is for Kevin Rose to wish me a happy birthday. And he did. He tweeted me and I printed it and put it in my planner that I carried with me every day. So there's that. I hope you don't think any less of me. Anyways, this is how social started for me. So it all led, right? Twitter led to Stumble, led to Dig, led to Facebook, got shut down by Facebook a few times. And I'm sitting there one day and I'm like, I just really get this. And I see a lot of opportunity for businesses to use this. I was screaming from the rooftops in 2008. Social media is, 2007, 2008. Oh my God, this is going to be game changer. Like, we're going to probably watch TV shows and tweets are going to come up on the screen. And people are like, you're nuts. That's never going to happen. What's a tweet? Are you like, what? Crystal has lost it. Lost it. My family didn't understand. I'm like, I just knew. I was like, just trust me. So as I started seeing this opportunity, what I also saw is that people didn't get it like I did. And one day, the company struggled. We struggled with getting finances and growing. It's very hard to create a software, and our pay had to get cut, and the writing was on the wall. So I was like, I'm going to start my own business. And I called my dad and I was like, I think I'm going to quit my job and start my own business. And he was so supportive. I thought he was going to be like trying to talk me out of it. I believe in me. I believe in this industry. And I started, I got a logo, and I was like, my three elements are, the PR, marketing, social media. And I was basically like, I can help you with your social media. And so how I got my first client, I'll never forget. I was remote. I was working out of my 620 square foot apartment in Fort Collins with my little Chihuahua Bruiser. Bruiser was Velkitis. Yes, named after Legally Blonde. And there were sites popping up like elance.com and guru.com, where it was a matchmaker to independent contractors and businesses. And I just started searching for what kinds of jobs people needed. And I would apply for them. And my first client was the publisher of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books, which is a pretty big deal. Like, people they know those books. And it wasn't really about promoting those books though. It was more about getting the brand out for the publisher, like building their name. So then more people would want to be published by them, and just having their own social accounts so they could also promote the books that they do publish and promote their authors. And so I basically like just set them up. Like, this is serious. I just looked at myself like, what's happening with my hair? Are we in focus? I'm very uncorked here. Like, my lips are even purple. That's going to make for great content for our social content. Very uncorked. What I did is I would go to twitter.com and hit new, like, sign up. And then I would create accounts for this publisher and for other companies that I worked with. So I'd like write the bio, upload the logo, create the whole account, have the spreadsheet with all their passwords, get them a Facebook page, get them on Stumble for most people, and then start like posting. And then at that point, sometimes I would be just like handing everything over. They just didn't want to like open the accounts. And then I would tweet some stuff. And the challenge still to this day, when you manage social media for brands, is getting content. Like, I don't work at that publisher. I'm not in the office. I don't know their authors. I don't know what they're looking for exactly. So you're doing the best you can with website copy. Honestly, imagine this. All that I have is website copy, and I have to tweet multiple times a day. So I would follow the authors. I would use Hootsuite, and I would have like all my columns of all the conversations that I was monitoring. And then if something was said that like a good quote or somebody plugged the book or whatever, then I could retweet it. So like I had stuff to work with, but there was no pictures. Like, this is back with social media. Like, no one's posting pictures or anything yet. But it worked. Like, they saw the value, and here we go. And so then I took on a few more clients, and I started building my business. So I'd have like a client or two, my publisher, and then I think the next one was it was a female comic book, like comic magazine. I can't remember the name of it. It had a very unique name. And I'm not into comics, but it was like cool artwork, and my goal was just to like help promote their comics and their artists. And it's a little bit of a blur, but I was like, this is really cool. But I didn't know their industry at all. Like, I'm trying to figure out how can we best communicate this and how can we best brand this and market it. But while this is happening, even though I'm in a 620 square foot little apartment, it's the luxury apartments at Courtney Park in Fort Collins, Colorado. I've always spent more on where I live. I like nicer things. I like safe areas. I like good quality floors and like appliances and all those things. Like, I like all that stuff. So I spent more, and my rent was like $1,600, and I'm solo. I'm 24 years old at this point, I think, or maybe I'm 23 still. And yeah, I'm 23. And one or two clients is like not paying bills. I would do things for $250 a month, $500 a month, and I only had a couple clients. So you start getting really nervous, like, oh shit, did I make the right decision? I'm not getting this consistent paycheck. I'm just trying to build. And a lot of people won't hire you because you don't have clients or testimonials yet or case studies yet, but you're working at trying to provide those. And when I'm in a brand new industry, it was really hard to build some of that traction or for them to have the right analytics on Google to show that I'm driving traffic. Or how do you really measure? Like, it was so different back then. It was so different back then. So one day I called my dad and I asked him and his wife to go out to dinner with me. We went to the Olive Garden and nope, Olive Garden's different story. I'll take you there in a second. I went over to his house and we sat down at the kitchen table, me, him, and his wife, Deb, and I asked for a loan. I asked for them to essentially invest in my business. I didn't give them any equity though. I think I said invest, even though I didn't really know what that meant because invest would mean equity. But ultimately, he gave me a loan. And I said, will you loan me $2,000 and I'll pay you 10% interest? Pretty good, right? 10% interest is great. Most of us would be like, heck yes, I'll do that. So he gave me $2,000 and I felt some relief. And again, there was this amazing feeling of like, my dad believes in what I'm doing, for him to like write me this check and be like, okay. And the Olive Garden story is that I started getting some clients. And so I wanted to take them out to eat. And I'm like, this is on the business. And I put down the business credit card and I kept that receipt for a really long time. But I felt really proud that I built up my client base to where I could take out my dad and his wife and say, thank you for believing in me. And at this point, I was paying them back, but not fully yet. And I'll fast forward quickly. The business is working and I decided to move to San Diego. I have this remote business so I can go anywhere. I have awesome clients. I had Waste Management was my client and all I had to do, I mean, listen to this. This is nuts. A like sustainability influencer, him, 3 times a week. Better if I did 5. All I had to do was retweet blog posts that they wrote. I would retweet it and got $1,000. So essentially I was an influencer getting paid to retweet. I didn't have to create any kind of custom content. That was the easiest $1,000 I've ever made. One day before I moved to San Diego, I moved in with my dad and his wife for 5 months. Because I actually moved to New York City to sell elephant poo paper in Bryant Park at the holiday show. So that's a whole nother story I'll tell you about. But because I was moving to the city for 2 months, they watched my dog. I didn't want to pay a rent. So I moved in with them, did that for 2 months, came back, saved up some money for 3 months, and then I moved to San Diego. Well, that time that I stayed with my dad and his wife, I would get mail there. So all my clients would send the mail checks there. And then one day, all my clients did the mail checks. All my clients would send checks in the mail there. And one day, my dad sees the check for Waste Management. And he's like, is Waste Management a client? And I was like, yeah. And he was like so proud. I could tell. It meant the world to me. There's just something, I'm one of those people, like when somebody's proud of you, I'm very motivated by that. That's very, very, very special. I think most people are that way, but it meant the world. So I also even hired my dad. I had him like organize all my receipts and then put them into I don't know what I had him do, but he's very organized and my receipts weren't. This was back in the day when I had to like write everything on them and then I had to plug them into my spreadsheet. I wasn't as sophisticated back then. But the whole point is that I had to figure it out. I had to figure out how I'm tracking the money. I had to figure out how I'm marketing, how I'm getting clients. I had to figure out how I'm going to pay my bills. I had to figure out these new industries that I was marketing on social media. And I had to learn about their industry and do research and what is the best angle. And I had to figure it all out. One of my biggest lessons was you're not going to know everything. You just have to show up. You have to believe in yourself. And when I called my dad from the car and was like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start my own business. If I first, before making the phone call, thought, but you don't know the numbers. How are you going to get clients? What are you even going to offer? What are you even going to charge? How are you going to actually pay your bills? Like, are you really thinking about the fact that you're not going to have a consistent paycheck? If I let all those things come in, I would have never made the phone call to my dad, and I would have never quit my job. And maybe I would not be here today. Who knows? So we don't have any of it figured out, people. Nothing. I'm convinced nobody has it figured out. Even big companies. Nobody's fucking figured it out. It's a shit show. So you just have to be like, I think I could solve a problem. You have to be an honest person and a hard worker and be transparent. If you mess up, you mess up. Say it, own it. But just be you, be honest and do your best. And then we'll always win. So going back to paying my dad, I then moved to San Diego, and I had more clients coming in, and I was making great money. And I mean, like, I was 24 making over $100,000 a year. I mean, I felt like that was pretty good for being 24 and it's my own business. And I was so lonely. Oh my God. I moved to a new state. I own my own business where I work from home. And I had one friend out there and one cousin. And I met Dustin on my third day. So I did have him, but we didn't really like connect and hang out until about 6 weeks after moving there. But I was so lonely. I remember like feeling so lost. I'm like, should I really have this business? And what am I doing? And do I enjoy this? And I was just so lonely. And I feel like I manifested, I put it out there into the universe that I need a team. I need to work with people, because that's when one of my clients, Rush Imprint, sent me an email. And it was an email introduction to his mentor, Ted Teal. And Ted Teal was starting a new software company called Snap Retail. And Ted was integrating social media into his software. And I was doing the social media for Rush Imprint. And he's like, I feel like you guys should connect. So Ted checked me out and he said, will you come to Atlanta? There's this place called America's Mart. And there's a show in July, gift show, and we could meet. And we work with 100,000 retailers. And I read 100,000 retailers. I'm like, I can't help 100,000 people. I can't go to this thing. I was like, they're just so much bigger than I am. I was having a lot of doubt. And what's crazy about the timing of all this is I got that email about 2 or 3 hours before Dustin and I went on our first official date. So in the car on our way to our date, our first official date, I'm telling him about this email that I got. I'm like, I can't help 100,000 people. And he's like, you should probably just go. Like, just see what he has to say. And I'm like I was shutting it down. Like, I'm not worthy. There's no way. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess I could just go and see. What's the risk? Ted was offering to pay half the travel. So that's it. And then Dustin watched my dog Bruiser. So I went and I sit down with Ted for 30 minutes. Tell him about social, my experience. He tells me about what he's doing. I have some ideas. I said totally a lot. He later told me, I love how much you say totally. It's so random. But I was like totally invested. I was so enthusiastic. I mean, imagine this 24-year-old girl, like so excited about social media. And I know it's going to change everything. And I loved what they were doing. And on the spot, he offered me a job. And it was like $90,000. You have to quit your company. You know, you have to stop your company. So essentially, I was bought out. I was making just over 100K. So fucking lonely. And I'm like, here's an opportunity to make 90K. I have benefits. I have a team. And I'm in the like ground level of something. You know, like that felt really exciting to be in the beginning of something. And I didn't say yes on the spot. I needed to think about it. Called my dad from the airport. I was so in shock. Oh, because part of it required me moving to Pittsburgh. And I just moved to San Diego. And I was starting to fall in love with a pretty amazing guy. And I love the weather in San Diego. And I was only there for like 3 months. And now it's like you have to uproot your life and leave. I just got here. And so I was at the airport talking to my dad. And I walked away from my suitcase. Like, because I was just so in a fog, I couldn't believe what happened, that I walked far away from my suitcase. And I'm like, well, I'm going to order something, so I'm going to let you go. And then I look down to like grab and I'm like, oh my God, I left my bag somewhere. And I'm just waiting for them to come over the intercom. Like, we have an unidentified or unattended luggage, whatever they say. Thankfully, no. And it was still there. Nobody reported it. Nobody took it. But I was just in a maze, like in a fog. And I come home to San Diego. I go to Dustin's house. I sit down on the couch. He's laying down. And I say, he's like, how'd it go? And I'm like, good. They offered me a job and it pays really well. And it requires I move to Pittsburgh. And it was just like silent. And he's like, oh. And he didn't really waver. He was just supportive. Like, he believed in me, and it wasn't like we were that serious or exclusive. Like, none of those conversations had happened. Like, we're just dating. But I knew there was something. I think he figured it out a little later than I did. I knew pretty immediately, but whatever. But long story short, I ended up taking that job. And then, I'll tell you more stories from there. But because I moved, I left Dustin, and we've got some fucking crazy stories actually to tell you about all that. But I wanted to share this story because as I was mapping it out, and like I said, I love when people share stories. I shared this, I think, on last week's episode on podcast. I love the behind the scenes shit. I fucking love it. And so I want to share more of it. And as I was sharing this and mapping it out, there was just so clear things. Like, you're not going to know all the answers. Do it anyways. Like I said, if I thought about all the things I don't know, I probably wouldn't have started 3 Elements. I just did it anyways. And Marie Forleo has a great book, Everything is Figure Outable. I really believe that, I had all these different kinds of industries with waste management, which was so easy. I was really just retweeting. I had an organic tea company that sold online that I was helping promote. I had a speech coach. I had a moving company. I had the comic book. I had the publisher. Oh my God. I had this company where pets that lost their legs, they dogs, mostly dogs that were had their legs amputated, like their back legs typically, but sometimes their front legs. They made devices that I'm going to say this wrong. I can't remember the right technical way to say this, but that basically were their legs. So you would hook the cute little wiener dog that had 2 front legs but didn't have its back legs, and you'd hook it onto this metal thing with wheels, and it allowed it to run, and it wasn't uncomfortable, and it was so heart touching. It was emotional. Honestly, I had to promote their YouTube videos, and I had to upload their videos to YouTube, and I'm crying they're giving these dogs legs and freedom. Oh my God. It was just so emotional. And I'm like, I don't even know how that company found me. I don't even know how. I had a company that my cousin put me in touch with them, surrogate, where you carry people's babies. I think that's a surrogate. And it was funny because they were in California, and I just recently moved my business there, and they're like, how old are you? Do you want to donate an egg? I'm like, no, I'm good. But I will market you on Twitter. I'll create your Facebook page. I'll help you with your content plan, but you're not having any of my eggs. I don't think I want to do that. I had so many different industries. That's my point. Organic Bug, a really cute e-com that sold all organic products. I had so many different clients, and I figured it out. So you have to just start. Just get started and just know that nobody has it figured out. And this applies whether you've been in business or not. We will have ideas if you've been in business for a long time, but we have new ideas. But all the but what if, I don't know. I think those get louder longer we've been in business for some, not everybody. Some people just go for it. They take the risk. But the what if and those challenges can really hold us back. So you just have to go for it. You have to follow that pull. I was so pulled, that gut feeling to get into social media. I knew there was something there, and I knew I had to quit my job and do it. I just had to explore that. And I think that's easier to do when you're younger. You have less at risk. I get it. I totally get it. But I think no matter how old you are, if you have that pull to do something, try something new, do it. Figure out how you can do it. The part of this that allowed me to do it is getting my dad's help. And that's another part of the moral of this story is that you've got to ask for help. That gave me the relief. I was like, okay, a couple months are paid. I got some time. My dad believes in me and let's go. I had to ask for help and don't be ashamed to ask for help. We have to ask for help. And then finally, you have to believe in yourself. I believed in myself. I believed in, and again, maybe I was young and naive and there was so much I didn't know, but I just did it. And I believed that I could. And a big part of me believing that I could was that I believed in the tool. I believed in social media. I saw this amazing opportunity and I knew that I could figure it out. And I knew I would show up for my clients and I knew I would work hard. And I did. And I built a great business, which led me to Snap Retail, which led me into the retail space, which then led me to Crystal Media that I've had for 11 years. So there are no coincidences. You just have to show up. You have to follow that gut feeling. You have to believe in yourself. You have to ask for help. You have to realize that you're not going to have shit figured out. None of us do. Okay. So next week, I'm going to share a story. We're going to fast forward to Crystal Media years. And I believe this story is going to take place in about 2015, 2016, when Drake's team reached out to me to work with him on a business that he was launching. It had launched already, but they were really looking at amplifying it. Still out there today. I'm not going to give anything away because you're just going to have to tune in. It is a kind of a funny story, and it's also a story of perseverance. So I hope you tune in, and cheers.